In this video, I'm going to explain corridor settings to you, what they're used for, what the purpose of them is, and times where you might have to adjust your corridor settings on your mower to make it function better in the working area you have it installed in. So, first thing we need to talk about is what are corridor settings. And the corridor settings are how far the mower can deviate from a wire when following a wire. This works with your guide wires and your boundary wires. Your mower will follow your guide wire coming into the charging station, right? We all know how that works. And the mower can follow a guide wire going out of the charging station to get somewhere in the working area where it needs to go, right? Okay. Now, what you need to know about a guide wire, if you don't know this already, is when you're looking at the charging station, and this is our charging station, by the way, here, this circle with an X. When you are looking in at the charging station, you see the little LED in there in the front. The guide wire is coming out. The mower will always follow to the left of that guide wire. When you look right into the charging station, whether the mower is going in to charge or the mower is coming out to mow, it will always follow on the left. If you look at the charging station for a 300 series mower, you even see that, it's a single guide wire setup. The guide wire comes in and clips under the left of the charging station because that makes it easier for the mower to come in and dock. So, very important that you remember that. The mower always travels on the left of the guide wire, coming and going when you're facing the charging station. When you are facing in looking, not the mower, but when you are facing in looking at the charging station, mower always follows on the left. So your corridor settings then, as I was saying, that's the amount of deviation from the wire when it's following the wire. Now on a guide wire, you would have 0 through 9 for your settings. 0 is right on top of the wire. If you watched our video where we showed you how to find your wires that are buried underground, we set our corridor setting to 0 for our guide wire, mower tracked right on top of it, and we can follow behind. You can put markers in the ground, spray paint, whatever, you know where your guide wire is at. So we have 0 right on top of the wire. 9 would be out here somewhere. Think of it as like a racetrack. You have 0 right there at the wire. Then you have 1. You have lane 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All different lanes coming back and going out for the Automower. The reason for this is because the guide wire is in the middle of the working area, you don't want that mower to be following on top of the guide wire or right next to it, coming in and going out all the time, because it's just going to wear a path through your yard. It's going to look like you have a go-kart track there or something. So the mower might be coming into the charging station and be at corridor setting 8, way out here, and it goes. Then when it comes back out, it might take number 4 to get back out there, and then coming back in again, it might take 1. So when you have your corridor settings for your guide wire set all the way up to 9, you have all this room for this mower to work. Going out, coming in. It can pick whatever lane it wants to go in and out through. If you narrow it down to where you have, your corridor setting at 5, then you just have lane 5 all the way down to the wire, and down to 1, which is following right next to the wire. That is what happens out here at the boundary wire. The boundary wire corridor settings 1 through 6. 1 is right next to the wire. 6 would be, just like with our guide wire, you would have lane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the mower will follow that boundary wire. If it's going in, using it to go into the charging station, it might take lane 4, and stay at that distance the whole way around from the boundary wire into the charging station. Then if you're using your boundary wire for a remote start location, it could follow the boundary out and be at, position number 6. So the whole reason why you can't have a 0, though, like with the guide wire for the boundary wire, is because the mower will think it's out of bounds. So you got 1 through 6 on your boundary wire. That's adjustable as well, just like the guide wire. You can shrink that down to 3 if you wanted to. You could set it down to 1 if you really wanted to. And in our video where we show how to find the wires underground, We set ours to 1, so the mower will run right next to the wire so you can figure out where it's at and mark it. But anyway, getting back to your corridor settings, these are your corridor settings for your boundary wire. These are for your guide wire. So now, why would you have to shrink down the corridor settings on your guide wire? Why wouldn't you just want it to have that ability to have all this wiggle room there to keep your grass from getting mounted down or matted down? The big reason is you have to go through an actual physical corridor with your mower. And this is where people get confused between corridor settings, automatic passage handling, and all that stuff, and they don't understand how the two of those features work and what the purpose of them is. So we'll get rid of this here, all of our lanes. We have our charging station and our guide wire there. And where you see this most often is, say there's like a fence or something in the yard. You have a gate that the mower has to come through. So here we'll have our fence going out through there and then over here. Now, the first mistake that people make is they put the guide wire right dead center in that opening. For some people, in some instances, it might work. But you want to try to keep that wire to where the mower can follow on the left of that wire going through that gate. So if you move this over here further, you're crunching down on the room that this mower has to go between the guide wire and through the opening in the gate. And you're saying, well, why can't it go over here to this side if it's going back through? What about the automatic passage handling? Well, in this instance, you don't see a boundary wire through there, right? This is our opening in our fence. You only see a guide wire. Automatic passage handling, what that is for, is if your boundary wire, let's say your boundary wire came here through that opening and then opens up again, and same way here, your boundary wire would come around through here and then open up again. Your mower will sense the boundary and know that, oh, I feel another boundary wire here on this side. It's time for me to get skinny to get through here. And same way when it's coming back out through, it'll say, oh, boundary wire, need to get skinny. And now I'm through, and now I can get fat again and widen out and go take care of this mowing. But if you have a fence and you run into one of those issues where you have an installation where you're going to be using a lot of wire, then you're probably not going to have your wire going through the opening for the gate. You're going to be letting the mower bounce in and bounce off of the fence. So what I'm talking about is, some people, if they have a fence in their yard with a gate, they might bring the boundary wire along the fence and go around through the opening and then all the way back out. Do the same thing over here. And in that instance, yes, the mower could sense that, and it could possibly get through because of the automatic passage handling. But again, you have a big installation you're doing, so you need to save wire, and you're not going to run the wire the whole length of the fence in and out next to the fence, because you need to keep that amount of wire down that you're using. So we got, like I had originally drawn here, we've got an opening in our fence, and we got our guide wire positioned at the right position so the mower has room to travel on the left. Now, because there's no boundary wire there, like I was saying, the mower can come in and just smack on the fence, turn around, and start going another way. The battery's going dead, it needs to get back home. It's coming in now, it's on corridor setting lane 9, and it's going to hit the fence, go back out again. And it's going to wander around, it's going to pick up the guide wire, it's going to come back in, and it's going to hit the fence because it's at, lane 5. Can't get through. You go out, you say, well, what about the boundary wire? Well, our fence runs out here to the boundary wire, so it has no way to get in following the boundary wire because your boundary wire runs under the fence, so it's going to hit the fence, come back out again, it'll pick up the guide wire again eventually, come back in, run into the fence, can't get through because it's trying to go all those areas away from the guide wire. If by random luck it's following at 0 or 1, it can squeeze right through there. And this is why we have the people who set this stuff up like this, and the mower goes through, and they're like, oh yeah, no problem. But it does it like 1 out of 20 times. The rest of the time, it doesn't get through there. So the way you would make this work effectively every time is you shrink down the corridor setting. So again, if we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are our different lanes again here. So depending on the size of your opening there, you set your corridor setting to 3 instead of 9. So now the mower can't go out here. It only has the 3 lanes to operate in. And now it can get through there. And when it's coming back out, it can deviate. It can take lane 1. And then when it's coming back in, it could take lane 3, or it could take 2 or 0, whatever. And it'll work effectively. Some people like to minimize the amount of space that they cut in a fence or something like that, and they have it only really as wide as the mower. And that is where you have to set the corridor settings down to 0 most of the time to get through there. If your opening in your fence and your gate is, just as wide as your mower, just slightly more, you're probably gonna have to go 0 and make the mower run right on top of the guide wire to get through there. Otherwise, you're gonna have that same scenario where it's banging into the fence or into the gate, the side of the gate, and turning around and trying to go out. So this is something that a lot of times you have to play around with. Sit it there, tell it to get back to home, check it to make sure it's right. Check it going out, and do it multiple times. Because, like I said, you might have that fluke time where it goes through when you still have your corridor setting set at 9. But then the rest of the time, it's just going to be smacking into the fence. So make sure you have that working properly. Try it over and over again, and make sure it's right. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what about tracking? Well, that's the tough part, depending on what mower you have and how it's laid out. Yeah, you're probably going to get some tracking here if that's the only way in and out for the mower. Now, if you have only one guide wire, you have a 300 series mower, you have that one guide wire, you change your corridor setting, it's going to stick to that everywhere. So if you have it coming out from the charging station and you have it starting like way out here, every time that it follows that guide wire coming in and out of the charging station, it's going to be running at that set deviation from the guide wire. So if you have it, your corridor setting for your guide wire at 2, you're going to have 0, 1, and 2. That's all the further you have to wiggle around there. And if you have it set at 0, again, there's the possibility you're going to end up with some tracking. So when you go to make an opening in a fence or something like that, try to leave enough room for the mower to be able to deviate a little bit, so you cut down on the amount of tracking through the hole in the fence and in the rest of the working area when the mower is trying to use the guide wire. Now, if you have a 430X or a 450X, a 435X, a mower with multiple guide wires, you can pick and choose the corridor settings for each individual wire. So it's not just, one fits all with your corridor settings. You can pick, if you have guide wire 1, you could set that down to 2, and your other ones you could have at 9. So you do have more options and more availability for your adjustment of your corridor settings on your more premium mowers, like your 400 and 500 series mowers. Keep that in mind. Again, if you have GPS mowing and you have a scenario like I showed you earlier with the boundary wire coming through there, or even a setup like this, GPS mowing isn't always going to be able to get that mower through there. It'll have it mapped out, but if you don't have your corridor settings just right, again, the mower could be over here, it could be over here, it could just smack into the fence. It's not going to work quite right every time. So you're going to have to change those corridor settings, test it over and over again to make sure it's working properly and functioning the way it should. Same way with going out through. You want to make sure that all that's working right. Another one that's kind of tricky is if you have a scenario like this and the mower has to come around a corner, because you might have enough room if the mower is just straight. It might have enough room to have, 3 as your corridor setting, but if that guide wire would go around a corner there, then coming in and out, it might get tricky and it might hit on there. So if you have your guide wire comes out here, let's say, and it's got to go around that way, when the mower's coming in and you have this at 3, it'll fit through there if it's dead on, going straight. But when it's coming this way, remember, if it's at 3 and it's over here and it goes to take that corner, then it could end up here and smack into the fence. So you might have to move your guide wire out a little bit further if you're going to be making a corner with it. So you come on out here further to help accommodate, to give the mower room if you want to go, 1, 2, or 3 for your corridor setting or your guide wire, so it has room to turn and line up to get straight through that opening there with the full multiple settings. So that's corridor settings. That's automatic passage handling. A lot to grasp there. Hopefully this helped. Now you know that they are not the same thing. They don't really even work the same. And a lot of times you have a gate or a tight area where your mower has to get through, adjust your corridor settings and it'll take care of that. Don't rely just on GPS mowing, and don't rely just on the automatic passage handling, or you could end up in a scenario, like I said, where 1 out of 30 times it actually works and gets through where it needs to get through. To adjust your mower's corridor settings on the actual mower, using the mower's menu from the home screen here, you would just press the menu button. If you're already on the menu screen, then you're a step ahead. So just use the arrow keys, obviously. Come down here to installation. That's the one with the arrow pointing down to the blades of grass. Hit OK. Then you're going to come down to advanced. Hit OK. And right there at the top, you got corridor width. Hit OK again. Now at the top, you have your boundary, your guide wires. You can scroll through each one using the side-to-side arrows. When you pick the one you want to adjust, hit the down arrow button to go down to that one. And you can see there the number's flashing. It was set at 9. 9 is flashing. We'll change it to 5. So there you go. You just push the number on the keypad that you want to change it to. And then you just simply, after you change it, go back up. There we go. It's set at 5, and now you can go back and go back and until you're ready to start your mower again. That's it. Pretty simple one here, but the app is actually even simpler to use, and we'll show you that next. To change your mower's corridor settings in the app, you want to bring up the menu, then you want to go to settings, then you want installation, and then corridor width. And here it even explains the corridor width, and you have your option to change your boundary and all your individual guides. Just make sure to hit the save button at the top when you're all done. So there you are. That's the basics on corridor settings, when to use the settings to your advantage, how to change them, and all that good stuff. If you still have any questions, just send us an email at roboticmowerservices@gmail.com. That's actually the best way to get a hold of us for anything you need as far as automower, whether it's parts, whether it's technical support, or you're looking to buy an automower. Just shoot us an email at roboticmowerservices@gmail.com. You can also reach us through our Robotic Mower Services Facebook page. Be sure to like that if you haven't done so already. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. All right, thanks for watching.